What if the world around us is not real, but a rewritten simulation carefully shaped to contain us? The false universe and the beginning of humanity descends to the very foundations of human history, revealing the invisible mechanisms that shaped perception, thought, and collective memory after the Great Reordering of 1728. It delves into the pillars of the imposed system that shaped humanity after that turning point. Nothing was left to chance. History, science, language, thought, the universe, and even the very concept of reality were reconstructed by the so-called architects of the new cycle. Entities that, under different faces and disciplines, molded everything around us to guide human thought toward an invisible obedience. Each chapter unveils the existence of a deliberate structure superimposed upon reality, a web of power designed to control how human beings understand their origin, their purpose, and their surroundings. The architects of history buried the traces of ancient civilizations, of the giants, and of previous humanities, transforming real ruins into mere myths, rewriting ancient texts, and sealing the paths that led into the inner earth. The architects of war created just causes and collective emotions to turn death into sacrifice and obedience into virtue, while imposing new physical limits under different symbols. The architects of the formula established a mathematical mold that replaced direct experience with calculation and number, dictating how reality itself should be interpreted. The architects of language emptied words of their creative power and transformed them into instruments of mental control. The architects of the universe raised an illusory ceiling over humanity, the invisible dome projector, hiding the upper oceans and replacing inner observation with a fabricated vision of the surroundings. And finally, the architects of thought implanted the frequency of mental noise that even today alters consciousness and weakens the spiritual connection between the human being, the source, and the celestial lands. Taken as a whole, the work traces a map of the different layers of deception, a system where the manipulation of time, the falsification of knowledge, and the distortion of language form the pillars of an invisible prison. Thus were created the foundations upon which these pillars were covered with the idea of a universe, of an outer space, reinforcing the notion of human insignificance, the belief in being only a distant point in the void. Beyond the exposure of the custodian system, the book invites something far greater, the return to original consciousness. It calls for the responsibility of looking inward, of recovering the memory of the soul, and remembering what was deliberately erased, that we were not born out of mere chance. If it is possible to see the root of the deception, then freeing thought from the structures that molded it will be the next step. It is therefore crucial to immerse oneself in this fracture of reality, from which we can observe the world through a different perspective. When the layers of the system are unveiled, a deeper truth emerges. Humanity was not born of chance, but of a purpose that was erased from its memory. This work not only reveals what was hidden, but offers a new vision of the system that surrounds us, and through it, the possibility of a more conscious and prosperous path. For once the pattern is understood, once the structure behind the veil is seen, it is no longer possible to live under the same illusion.